What's up, NIO family? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward as we have a nice looking wedge that's forming. And the market's going to likely see some new developments which will affect NIO. So I'll break down my prediction for next week and what you should be watching for as the day goes on for the economic calendar and such. But just notes that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. Anyways, for NIO, for the last couple of days, we've been riding this imbalance upwards. We've been trying to uptrend, holding this trend line of support. And overall, we are still looking a little bit more bullish. But the question is, will NIO try to see a big push going into next week or not? That's going to depend on a lot of different factors out there, from what's happening with the economic calendar, not to mention new reactions to resistance. So let's first talk about that. Let's talk about next week first before I break down these charts. So for today, as a reminder, we had Jerome Powell giving a speech, and he was very, very dovish. He ended up saying that the Fed is going to most likely going to have to adjust their policy. He implicitly said that the Fed is going to cut rates during the next meeting, or at least most likely. And he also mentioned that the labor market is once again at risk. There is some risk of it kind of diminishing, but there's also not really much of a risk of inflation basically going up. So that is once again a good sign for the markets. And you mentioned that the Fed has been very, very stringent. They did their job and they're on track for that 2% target. So it's the most dovish we've seen him, considering the fact that we have more inflationary data still to come before FOMC. And despite that, he still remained more dovish. So that's why the market pumps the way it did today. And now we're going to be approaching some key resistance. So we'll see what kind of move we make from there. Now, when it comes to other factors, I just want to mention that for earnings, okay, going into next week, we have a couple of them. Excuse me, we have a couple of them for Monday, very, very minor ones. For Tuesday, once again, we have some banks, nothing too crazy. But then Wednesday and Thursday will be a lot more significant as we have Kohl's in the morning and Foot Locker. Not to mention Nvda on Wednesday and Salesforce, followed by Thursday, which is when we have Best Buy, Dollar General, and Dell. So we'll see how things go. Just note that we have Nvidia's earnings next week. It's going to be big for the markets. As far as the market go as a whole, uh, I just want to say that we have to pay attention to the manufacturing numbers coming out for Monday. For Tuesday, we have more manufacturing numbers coming out. Nothing too crazy. But then when we get to Wednesday, we just have a couple of Fed speakers. And that's going to be the last quiet day because Thursday we have GDP numbers, which is pretty important. And then for Friday, we also have the PCE numbers coming out. So, two important pieces of data for Thursday and Friday to conclude the month of August. Then the market will return going into September. So it's going to be very, very important. So I just wanted to call this out. This is how the market's looking thus far. For other factors out there, for NIO, there's some news coming out that Israel Englander has come out. He's doubling down on Rivian and NIO. So that's some big news making headlines right now, as we're starting to see a lot more buyers continuing to buy up stock. We also saw Morgan Stanley make a very, very big shift in their positions. There's also news coming out about how NIO's EC6 has a lot of potential. It's getting a lot of credits and a lot of potential right now, a lot of exposure by NIO. So this is going to be a big competitor that NIO is going to be using for, excuse me, different EVs in China and also across different sectors in Europe. Volume is at 26 million, so very, very low volume, yet we're seeing enough buyers to still push the share price. And shorting is decreasing for NIO. It's only down to about 33%. So we saw a lot of bullish volume. Right now, Bank of America Securities gave us a neutral rating. The price price ratio is kind of flat right now, not really doing a whole lot, so give it some time. So now the question is what's happening with the share price. In my personal opinion, I think that we're uptrending. I think there's more potential for upside. If we break 4.14, we'll be looking for basically 4.25. If we lose support right over here where this trend line is, we'll be looking for a dip back down to about 3.98. Overall, I suspect that NIO may dip tomorrow, not tomorrow, next week, then try to continue to ride this trend line higher towards that 4.25 area. And then we'll see if we get a rejection, but there is some upside potential. Now, it may push a little bit, but just be very careful as you approach the resistance, because the last time we did hit the 4.2 area, we did see rejection. So we'll see how NIO responds this time. I do want to mention we have a cup and handle like structure that's developing, so this does look more bullish technically speaking. We might push a little bit hard to this resistance, but watch and see if this is a trap or not. If we break 4.2, look for a bigger push, and I think the setup looks pretty decent. For other tickers out there, we have SPY. SPY is looking like it's going to be testing resistance around 563 to 565 again. it could push a little bit higher, but I suspect that it's going to be forming a top and we're going to be looking for a little bit of downside because of seasonality and also because of this large bearish divergence that continues to develop. So I suspect that with this divergence that's been developing all this time, this will finally play out just like how it did back here. It developed like right over here and also like during moments like right here. So I think what's going to happen to SPY is we push a little bit higher. We could see 563, if not 565, and then we'll be watching to see if there's a rejection. I'll talk more about this on Sunday, but make sure you watch resistance. We may attempt to go a little higher, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Nvda, you have resistance around this 130 area. We could push into this resistance area, and we'll see if we get a rejection. Look for more upside for 130 and see if we get that rejection. For Bitcoin, we are pushing right now, getting a nice breakout after Jerome Powell ended up saying what he said, and also because of other pieces of news for crypto. So as a result, Bitcoin is looking more bullish. We're looking for basically the 65,000 mark. If we break that, we're going all the way up towards 67,000. We'll see if we get a rejection off there, that or not, but we still look more bullish. For ES, we're looking a little bit more bullish right now as we're trying to push to resistance at 65.50. We'll see if this breaks. If we do break this, we could get close to 56.80. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. I think I said 65. I meant 56.50, by the way. I think I misspoke. We could go a little bit higher, then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. We're forming a nice cup right now, so I do think we might push a little higher to 56.80. Then we'll see if we get a rejection. As far as Tesla goes, we're looking more bullish. We're trying to uptrend. We did reclaim our support. This imbalance may feel taking us up to 223, but we'll be watching to see how Tesla responds to this resistance right over here. So we have this next resistance zone that's kind of building over here. We'll see if Tesla rejects off this yellow trend line if we break through it. Look for more upside and see what kind of reaction we get as we're getting tighter. For the QQQ, in my personal opinion, we're also getting tighter. We may be making a lower high relative to before, so it's not looking as strong as SPY. And I suspect there's going to be a move to the downside soon. We could push a little higher to the 482 area. It is possible we retest that, but then there's going to be risk of a rejection. So watch for that very carefully as well. For Aapl is still stuck within this range. We have 228 as resistance and support at 223. I suspect we're going to remain range bound. We might push a little higher to 228 again, consolidate. Then we'll see if there's a move to the downside after that. With that being said, that's what I'm seeing as the most likely move, and that's what I'm seeing for the markets moving forward. For a few more, when it comes to the IWM, we pumped up to this 220 area, but just know we have some tough resistance here. It is possible to go a little bit higher depending if the 220s break. If they do break, we could get closer to the mid 220s before rejecting, so I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. But so far, it does look a little bit more bullish, and it looks like it could push into the 220s. For Coinbase looks a little bit more bullish to me, trying to break past this 212 area. If we break this, I'll be looking for 215. We'll see if we reject or not. For Amazon, we're looking at resistance around this 178 area. We'll see if this rejects or not as well, but I suspect that this might go a little higher towards 178, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. Now, we could be forming kind of like a head and shoulders here. We have this left shoulder here ahead, and maybe like a right shoulder about to form. So be careful with Amazon. If we lose 175, look for a big dip. I suspect we might push a little higher, consolidate, and there might be a dip coming later on. For Meta, we also happen to have that head and shoulders that played out, and we have this large bearish divergence. So this is forming like a double top. We'll see if Meta stays in this range or not. We're stuck between 525 and 538. If we lose 525, there could be a dip coming to the 520s. So just be mindful of that. Microsoft is doing the same thing. It's starting to dip a little bit. We could be retesting this 414 area. If that fails, we're looking for a dip. I see a possible head and shoulders, so just be mindful of that. Google's also on a bit of a decline right now. Watch 166. We'll see if that breaks or not. So be very, very patient. With that being said, guys, the market is slowing down. I think that some stocks may try to push a little higher, like SPY, but then we'll be watching to see how we react to resistance. And the same thing can be said about NIO. NIO may attempt to push towards this 4.2 area, and we'll see if we reject or not. So give it the time it needs, and we'll see how things go. With that being said, I think that for Monday, NIO may dip towards the trend line and try to rebound. We're getting some decent news so far, so that's part of why the market's holding up, and this could help NIO. And we'll see if the cup and handle plays out. So we do have potential to push higher. Just be careful if the whole market does slow down later on. So be patient. We'll see how things go. And I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy the weekend, guys. I think NIO has more upside potential coming, may dip and then start pushing higher. And we'll see how things go from here. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend, guys. I'll be back on Sunday to give you guys another update. Take care and peace out.